Everyone's buzzing about Chris Domet leaving Gold Rush, and most people think they've already cracked the story. They say Parker Schnabel pushed too hard with an impossible goal, and Chris finally cracked under the pressure. That's the version most people are running with. But that's only the surface. The real reason is something the network would never show on air, a bombshell that involves serious money disagreements behind closed doors and a deep clash of values that made staying impossible for Chris. This wasn't just burnout. It was a full-blown falling out. The quiet, dependable foreman was backed into a corner, and walking away became his only act of defiance. Parker's impossible demand. The Klondike has broken stronger men than most. For Chris Domet, the guy who became the very definition of reliability on Gold Rush, season 15 turned into a perfect storm. It wasn't just another mining season. It was an all-out war on reality, driven by Parker Schnabel's most outrageous target yet, hell of a week. Brendan's really been doing great with that little plant. This week it gives us 487 ounces. Nice. Parker didn't just want to mine gold, he wanted to mine a number so massive it sounded like a typo, 10,000 ounces. That's more than 600 pounds of pure gold, worth almost $20 million at current prices. To chase a number that big, you don't just work harder, you have to do the impossible. And the crushing weight of that impossibility fell squarely on Chris Domet's shoulders. It's almost funny when you think about it. In a world of giant machines and massive earth-moving operations, the entire empire ultimately depends on tiny glittering specks recovered at the very end. That final step, the gold room, was Chris's domain. Normally, cleaning up concentrates from 1 or 2 wash plants is already a demanding, precision job. One mistake can cost thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, of dollars. But this season, Parker wasn't running 1 or 2 plants. He decided to run 3 wash plants simultaneously. There was Big Red, the reliable workhorse. There was Rock Monster, a beast in its own right. And then there was Slucifer, the massive main plant. 3 separate streams of gold-bearing concentrates, all funneling into one man's hands. The workload didn't just go from hard to brutal, it became borderline impossible. This is the first time that we've tried to run 3 plants at once. And really, the success of the season depends on us being able to do it and keep 3 running. Picture finishing a 12-hour shift, your body already screaming, only to realize you still have to clean out the sluice boxes from 3 giant machines. It's not just rinsing dirt, it's a meticulous, painstaking process to make sure not a single flake of gold is lost. For Chris, who isn't a young man anymore, this non-stop grind became more than a job, it became a physical and mental ordeal. He was always the guy who never complained, the one who just got it done. But this season, you could see the cracks forming. He was drowning. The pressure became so intense that, for the first time in all his years working with Parker, he had to speak up. It was either that or collapse. Something had to give. The crew was already stretched razor thin. Pulling someone off a dozer or rock truck to help in the gold room wasn't an option. Every single person was critical to feeding the 3 hungry wash plants. That left Chris in an impossible position. Finally, he threw out a name: Tatiana Costa. She was one of the best equipment operators on the team, but she had 0 experience in the delicate, high-stakes world of gold recovery. It was a desperate suggestion: Tatiana, maybe she's like one of our top operators. Yeah, Mitch and Tyson are not going to be happy if Tatiana comes out of the field. Proposing to pull a top-tier operator out of the dirt was a massive ask, one that Mitch and Tyson, the other foreman, were definitely not going to like. But the alternative was watching Chris walk away for good. Parker, for all his relentless ambition, knew he couldn't afford to lose Chris. So the decision was made: Tatiana would be trained, and Chris would finally get some help. But you have to wonder, was it already too little, too late? The damage had been done. The message was crystal clear. Parker's ambition for 10,000 ounces mattered more than the well-being of his most loyal man, more than a miner. To really understand why Chris Domit's departure is such a huge deal, you have to know who he actually is. He wasn't just another crew member. He was the secret weapon behind Parker's incredible success. Everything has to be cleaned in the gold. I can't do that. I just can't. Why have a third plant if you can't keep it clean? Here's the crazy part. Chris Domit wasn't even a gold miner to start with. He stumbled into this world almost by accident. He began as a carpenter, hired to build cabins for Todd Hoffman's original crew back in the early seasons. He was just a guy with a hammer and a saw. But one thing led to another, and soon he found himself knee-deep in mud and the chaos of gold mining, and it turned out he was damn good at it. When he eventually switched over to Parker's team in Season 4, everything clicked. Parker was the young, fiery prodigy with big dreams. But Chris was the steady hand, the voice of experience that turned those wild ambitions into actual, weighable gold. His meticulous work in the gold room helped Parker shatter records year after year. Without Chris making sure every possible ounce was recovered, Parker's legendary totals simply wouldn't exist. He wasn't just cleaning gold, he was maximizing profit and turning a high-risk operation into a finely tuned money-making machine, but his value went far beyond numbers on a scale. Chris was the glue that held the whole crew together. Gold mining is a pressure cooker, long hours, brutal weather, constant breakdowns, and a boss who demands perfection. Tempers flare. Arguments erupt. Morale can drop fast. In that chaos, Chris was the calm center. With his easygoing nature and sharp sense of humor, he knew exactly how to diffuse tension and keep the team from turning on each other. He was the guy everyone, including Parker, could turn to when things got too intense. That he was more than a foreman. He was a mentor, a friend, and, over time, a key decision-maker. Parker trusted his judgment on everything: the best way to process a certain type of pay dirt, how to manage crew drama, everything. That he wasn't just an employee, he was foundational to the entire empire. When Parker set the insane goal of running 3 wash plants at once, it was Chris who had to figure out how to make it even remotely possible, even as it was breaking him. I'm gonna go on over. Take a look-see and see how we're doing. Fire it up. Looking a lot better. His departure isn't like losing a good rock truck driver. It's like pulling the cornerstone out of a building. The whole structure is now at risk of collapse. That he went from being an outsider with zero mining experience to one of the most respected and irreplaceable figures in the entire industry. He is, or was, the backbone of the operation. So if he was so valuable, why was he pushed so hard? The kid who couldn't stop. You can't talk about the pressure on Chris Domit without talking about the source of that pressure: Parker Schnabel himself. Parker isn't just a gold miner, he's a phenomenon. Born in the mid-90s in the tiny town of Haines, Alaska, he was practically raised in a gold mine. His grandfather, the legendary John Schnabel, ran the Big Nugget mine. While other kids were playing video games, Parker was learning to run bulldozers and excavators. You finding anything? What do you think, Grandpa? Oh my, ooh, that is beautiful. Here's another one. Isn't that awesome? I won't be able to sleep. By the time he was old enough to drive a car, he was already an expert with heavy machinery. He briefly considered college to study geology, but a classroom could never contain him. Instead of taking student loans, he took his life savings and poured everything into his own mining operation. At just 16 years old, he took over the family mine. Imagine being a teenager and giving orders to grown men twice your age. But he wasn't just a bossy kid, he had the knowledge and the work ethic to back it up. Then came Gold Rush, and the world met this teenage mining prodigy, but TV wasn't enough. In a move that stunned everyone, he left his family's operation, went to the Yukon, leased his own ground, and started from scratch. It was a massive risk, but it paid off in spectacular fashion. In his very first solo season, he pulled more than 1,000 ounces of gold out of the ground. From that moment, his trajectory was straight up. His gold totals grew exponentially every season, leaving rivals like Todd Hoffman far behind. He wasn't just mining, he was innovating. Constantly pushing for more efficiency, bigger machines, higher yields. Oh, this is looking pretty good. Yeah, it is. It's going good. We're getting somewhere. Anyway, I was really hoping you were going to be at a spot where, I could grab this dozer from you and grab the other 111 too, and take them up Australia Creek. I don't see us getting through the dirt without the big dozer. Yeah, me neither. Like, we've paid royalties on the pits. We have to get the pits done. This relentless drive turned him into a multi-millionaire before he even turned 30. But that same drive has a dark side. Parker's ambition is bottomless. Hitting a record isn't cause for celebration, it's just the new minimum that has to be destroyed the next year. This creates an environment of constant, unrelenting pressure. There is no good enough. That obsession has already taken a toll on his personal life. His relationship with Australian veterinary nurse Ashley Yull, who even appeared on the show, eventually fell apart because he admitted he couldn't balance work and his personal life. For Parker, mining always comes first. That single-minded focus is exactly what led to the 10,000-ounce goal. To him, it wasn't insane or crew-breaking, it was just the next logical step. He is so focused on the summit that he sometimes fails to see the people he's pushing to get there, people like Chris, who have given him years of loyalty and backbreaking work, but the numbers don't lie, and they reveal a shocking pattern. Reading between the lines, did Chris Doumit really leave the most successful gold mining operation on television just because he was tired? The short answer, no. The real reason is far more complicated, and honestly, far more human. It wasn't one single thing. It wasn't just the 10,000-ounce goal or the pressure of running 3 plants. It was the crushing, cumulative weight of everything, a slow burn that finally reached its breaking point, gold all lined up in there. There's gold along here. They might be a lot of work, but maybe these riffles are working. Well, Parker threw down 2,000 ounces this year. Thought 1,000 was difficult. We're going to need really good cleanups every time. Let's connect the dots. For years, Chris was the quiet professional, the rock-solid foundation of the crew. He helped Parker go from being a promising kid to a gold mining legend. Think about the numbers: Season 5, over 2,500 ounces; Season 7, over 4,300 ounces; Season 8, over 6,200 ounces. Those numbers don't happen without a master in the gold room. Well, you threw a 5,000-ounce goal at us. You nailed that. You threw a 7,000-ounce goal. Our season total is 7,381.1 for the season. Chris was instrumental in generating tens, if not hundreds, of millions of dollars in revenue. Yet when Parker decided to chase his most extreme goal yet, it was Chris who was forced into an impossible position, worked to the absolute breaking point. You have to wonder, after all those years, did Chris start to feel like just another piece of equipment? A valuable piece, sure, but one that could be run into the ground until it failed. The decision to bring in Tatiana was a band-aid solution to a problem Parker himself created. For a man like Chris, who values loyalty, respect, and doing things the right way, that must have been a bitter pill to swallow. It sends a very clear message: the goal matters more than the people. This wasn't a snap decision made in the heat of one tough season. This was years of accumulated physical exhaustion, mental fatigue, and emotional wear. It's the story of a man finally looking at his future and asking, is this worth it? So, Tyson's got some really super coarse tailings, but he's got probably 7 or 8 tons of rock on top that pipe at sleeve so it won't get crushed. Is another season of relentless stress, chasing another impossible number for someone else's legacy, worth sacrificing your health, your peace of mind, and maybe even your dignity? The real reason Chris Domet left is simple. He chose himself. He chose to step away from the madness before it completely consumed him. He had nothing left to prove. He helped build the empire. He watched it reach heights no one thought possible. And then he decided he was done. It wasn't quitting. It was knowing when to walk away. It's a decision most of us can understand, choosing a quieter life over chaos, even if it means leaving a mountain of gold behind. Was Chris Domet a victim of Parker's ambition? Or did he simply cash in his chips at the perfect time? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this.